Hey guys! Welcome to the second workshop for Macroeconomics 2 presented by the UNSW Economic Society. In this video, we will focus on exam-style questions sourced from the topics covered in the second half of the term. Let's start off with consumption. Question 1. Suppose x bar is equal to 75,000, beta is equal to 1, and r is 0.05. Assuming logarithmic utility, what is consumption today? A. 75,000. B. 35,714.29. C. 39,375. D. 37,500. E. Not enough information is given. We start off with the log utility form of the Euler equation, which is given by equation 1. We also have the intertemporal budget constraint, which is given by equation 2, where x bar denotes total wealth, which is the sum of financial wealth and human wealth. We substitute beta is equal to 1 into equation 1 to get equation 3. What this means is that the consumptions are equal in present value terms. Substituting equation 3 into 2, we can solve for consumption today and consumption in the future in terms of total wealth, which is given by equations 4 and 5. Since we're interested in consumption today, we look at equation 4. Plugging in our total wealth value of 75,000, we can see that consumption today is equal to 37,500. Therefore, the correct answer is D. Our next question will be on investment. Question 2.1. If there's an increase in capital gains, then curve blank would shift to curve blank. A. Curve D to curve C. B. Curve B to curve A. C. Curve C to curve D. D. Curve A to curve B. E. Not enough information is given. The correct answer is C. The user cost of capital is the total cost to the firm of using one more unit of capital, given by the equation on the slide. From the figure, curves A and B represent the marginal product of capital, and lines C and D represent the user cost. A firm should invest in capital until the value of the extra output that capital produces falls to equal the user cost. This provides the desired level of the capital stock. The last term in the numerator, which is the change in P divided by P, is the growth rate of price. We commonly refer to this term as capital gains. If the growth rate of price is negative, it can be called capital loss. In this question, we know that the capital gains term will be affected, and this term shows up in the user cost equation. Therefore, we are only considering curves C and D. We can rule out options B and D now. From the equation, we can see an increase in capital gains will decrease the user cost. Therefore, curve C will shift downwards to curve D. Question 2.2. If there is an increase in the marginal product of capital, then curve blank will shift to curve blank. The correct answer is D. Since the question specifies that it is marginal product of capital which is being affected, we are considering curves A and B. Hence, we can cross out options A and C. As the marginal product of capital increases, firms will want a larger amount of capital at each given user cost. Therefore, curve A shifts to curve B. Question 2.3. If there is a decrease in the corporate tax rate, then curve blank will shift to curve blank. The correct answer is C. Taxes show up in our user cost of capital equation, so we can rule out options B and D. Taxes are in the denominator, hence if corporate taxes decrease, then our whole denominator becomes larger, since it is 1 minus tax, and the user cost of capital will decrease as a result. This means that curve C will shift to curve D. Question 2.4. If there is an increase in the user cost of capital, then curve blank will shift to curve blank. If the MPK falls, curve blank will shift to curve blank. This question just combines the movement of both curves, but we can solve for them separately. In the first part, if there is an increase in user cost of capital, then we know that the straight curve will shift upwards. In this case, curve D will shift to curve C. If the marginal product of capital falls, the firms will desire a smaller amount of capital at each given user cost. Therefore, curve B shifts to curve A. Hence, the correct answer is C. Let's move on to a question about the government and the macroeconomy. Question 3. Write down the government's budget constraint. Be sure to identify all components. If the government is running a budget deficit, how can it finance its expenditures? We deal with the flow version of the government budget constraint. It is based on a standard accounting identity that states that the sources of funds to the government must equal to the uses of funds by the government. This equation is called the flow version because it must hold in each period. The left side of the equation says that the government can use its funds to purchase goods and services, which is denoted by GT, for transfer payments such as unemployment insurance, social security and welfare payments, which is denoted by TRT, and IBT, which is for interest repayments on government debt. The existing stock of government debt is BT, which is the stock of debt held at the start of period T. For simplicity, we assume that the nominal interest rate is constant at I. The right side of the equation describes the sources of government funds. The government can obtain its funds through taxes given by T_T or through borrowing. Since BT is the total amount borrowed so far, changes in BT plus 1 is an amount of new borrowing. The third source of funds is printing money, which is represented by the change in the stock of money or the amount of new money printed at T plus 1. We normally assume this amount to be 0. If the government is running on a budget deficit whereby tax revenue cannot cover government spending, they have to rely on borrowings and printing money. Let's have a look at a question on international trade. This table provides information on two economies, East and West, and their relative labour force and the fish and chip production per person. Question 4.1. In autarky, the price of fish in terms of chips is blank in the West, and in the East the price is blank. Therefore, the West has a comparative advantage in blank. Autarky is a situation where both economies are closed off to trade. The West can produce either 200 kilos of fish or 100 kilos of chips per person. Therefore, the price of 1 kilo of fish is half a kilo of chips. In other words, the time it takes for one person to produce 1 kilo of fish, they could have produced half a kilo of chips in the West. Likewise, in the East, a person can produce 60 kilos of fish or 20 kilos of chips. Hence, the price of fish is a third of a kilo of chips in the East. The West has a comparative advantage in the good with the lowest opportunity cost. From this, we can see that the East has the comparative advantage in producing fish, since they only have to give up a third of a kilo of chips as opposed to the West, who has to give up half a kilo of chips. Therefore, the West has a comparative advantage in chip production. The correct answer is E, none of the above. Question 4.2. With free trade in the West, fish consumption blank and chips consumption blank, compared to autarky. A. Rises, falls. B. Stays the same, rises. C. Rises, stays the same. D. Stays the same, stays the same. E. None of the above. With free trade, the West will only produce the good they have a comparative advantage in, which is chips. Let's consider fish and chip consumption in autarky versus free trade for the West. Assuming that citizens spend half of their income on each good, in autarky, the West will consume 100 kilos of fish and 50 kilos of chips per person. Once the economy opens up to trade, the West will employ all labour to the production of chips and will produce 10,000 kilos of chips, and the East will employ all labour to fish production, producing a total of 24,000 kilos of fish. The price of fish is now 0.417 kilos of chips. Let's assume the wage of workers in terms of fish. Alternatively, you could have also chosen wages to be in terms of chips. Each worker receives a wage of 240 kilos of fish in the West, since 24,000 kilos of fish are produced, and there are 100 workers. Of this, 120 kilos of fish will be consumed, and the remaining will be spent on chips. The world price of chips is now 2.4 kilos of fish. Since they have 120 kilos of fish remaining as their wage, and each kilo of chips costs 2.4 kilos of fish, they can consume a total of 50 kilos of chips each. The West now consumes 120 kilos of fish and 50 kilos of chips. Therefore, under free trade, the West can consume more fish but the same amount of chips compared to autarky. Hence, the correct answer is C. Our last question will also be on international trade. Question 5. Suppose in the north, 1 unit of labor produces Fn units of fish, or Cn units of chips. In the south, 1 unit of labor produces Fs units of fish and Cs units of chips. For the south to specialize in fish, which of the following must be true? For the south to specialize in fish, the opportunity cost of producing 1 unit of fish must be less than the north's opportunity cost of producing 1 unit of fish. The opportunity cost of fish for the south is given by Cs over Fs, and Cn over Fn for the north. Therefore, for the south to specialize in fish production, option C must be correct. Let's put some numbers to it to make it clearer. Take the following values. Cs is equal to 10 kilos. Fs is equal to 50 kilos. Cn is equal to 70 kilos. And Fn is equal to 100 kilos. The opportunity cost for the laborers in the south to produce 1 kilo of fish is Cs over Fs, which is the loss in chips over the gain in fish. This is equal to 10 over 50, which is 0.2 kilos of chips. For the laborers in the north, the opportunity cost of producing 1 kilo of fish is Cn over Fn, which is the loss in chips over the gain in fish. This can be calculated as 70 over 100, which is 0.7 kilos of chips. The south only has to give up 0.2 kilos of chips for 1 kilo of fish, whereas the north has to give up 0.7 kilos of chips. Since the opportunity cost of fish in the south is less than the opportunity cost of fish in the north, the south will specialize in fish production. This brings us to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to watch our previous Macroeconomics 2 videos for additional questions. These videos are available on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We wish you the best of luck for your final exams.